So the most important thing I did in that moment was to write my resignation letter and give it to her. And I said, if you ever feel that I am not being the husband that you need me to be, if you ever feel that something is crowding you out, I will walk away from this job because it's not a competition and I choose you.
So the first question I think, Micah, that you and I have are, what are some of the most important things that you've been doing to really love, cherish, and nurture your wife in this journey?
Yeah, the most significant thing that I've done was after my wife had a conversation with me after the kids were in bed, and she said, Peter, I love you. I am committed to you, which is great. That's what you want to hear. But then she said, Peter, I feel nothing for you anymore. And the reality is I was more focused on building Hope International than I was in trying to build a family. And she was absolutely right. She was not getting more than my leftovers of my time and attention. And so that conversation changed a lot of things. This is now 14 years ago, but I can remember it distinctly. That was a changing moment for me. So the most important thing I did in that moment was to write my resignation letter and give it to her. And I said, if you ever feel that I am not being the husband that you need me to be, if you ever feel that something is crowding you out, I will walk away from this job because it's not a competition and I choose you. And the thing that did, well, I hope that communicated to Laurel, it did something in my own mind. There was a significant change in a realignment of what really matters in that. So that was a significant moment. So if you haven't already, write your resignation letter, give it to your spouse. And my guess is that will have a clarifying impact in the way that you do your work. So that's super important. And then the other kind of key piece is just time. And for us at this stage, it is after dinner. Our dogs know when it is walk time, and that is such special time for us to have the habit of regularly walking together. While, some people maybe have these big trips or whatever, I find just the daily, whenever I'm in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, just to have the daily time of walking together, we both really look forward to that. That is really significant time that we have together.
What do you think made it safe for your wife to be able to speak up and say, I feel nothing for you, although I love you and I'm committed to you?
Oh, it's so funny. I think it is nothing about what I had done to that point and more about my wife's courage and willingness. She will always say what needs to be said. That is yes, part of the way that she is wired. And so maybe a different question is, how do I make sure that that is still the posture with her and with the kids? And I think increasingly, as my kids get older, going in with more questions and less statements is a really powerful way to grow in relationship together. So before you make some statements, be sure to ask some clarifying questions first. And that to me has been a helpful practice as well.
Peter, that's so funny because last week, Linda and I were in Boston together for 3 days. And I said to her, and I remember we take a day a week every week that's a Linda day. And I said to her, honey, we were out walking and she was so cute. And I said to her, honey, I'm so glad I've never taken you for granted. And the next day she said to me, yesterday you said you'd never taken me for granted. And well, how do you know that? And I said, well, I know. I mean, it's me. I've been thinking that the whole time. And she said, well, you need to know that in our late 20s, when you were heads down developing real estate and we lived on the farm and I had 3 kids and you went to Albania for the winter, I felt like you were taking me for granted. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. We've been married 41 years. Like, could I actually get smarter and start asking questions instead of making these great statements?
Yeah. So I'm curious, what practical advice, what are some of the most effective things you've done with your children over the years?
Oh, 2 come to mind. One is with my job. I do have the opportunity to travel, and whether that's in the US or around the world, I've looked for those opportunities to experience that with my kids. And Lloyd, even at the beginning, you were mentioning, when I would connect with you, it was not uncommon for there to be a kid with me. And again, my job allows me to do that. If there's something that I'm going to be speaking at, it sometimes is possible for me to bring one of my kids. One example, there was something called it was the 75th annual candy convention. And that is something that I don't know that I would have said yes to if it was just me going. But my only question was, can I bring my son? And they said yes. And I said, yes, I am going to show up. And it was so fun. The samples never ended for all of this. It was an amazing memory that we had together, and traveling internationally and involving my kids in the work has been some of the most precious and special moments. So that is one. The second thing is this idea of like intentional parenting and finding moments that matter. And for each of my kids, there are those significant milestones, and making sure that we see them, that we celebrate them. So had time with my eldest to be on a ranch in Texas, and to give the Father's blessing to him and to each of my kids. There's that significant moment when they go from child to adult. And I never want them to wonder if they have my blessing. I never want them to wonder if I am proud of them. And so making sure that there is a memorable moment to mark the occasion of letting them know, yeah, I am so proud of you. And isn't it crazy that that's actually what we see in the example of Jesus before his ministry started? After he's baptized, he hears a voice like, "This is my son. I'm well pleased." And isn't that amazing that was the Father's blessing? And then you see like Jacob, you see these, and Esau, you see these crazy stories of people like fighting for their father's blessing. And so anyway, just trying to figure out what are those moments to really mark, and especially when it comes down to them knowing and hearing and receiving the Father's blessing on their life. I love them, crazy about them, and going to be their biggest fans as they step forward in all that God has for them.
That's amazing. Other than your own books, which you've written, which books have been the most impactful for you over the years?
Oh, so many. I feel like I love reading. And so I'm just going to give you one that just recently, because that changes throughout time. I mean, there's so many great ones. But the one that I just read that absolutely intrigued me, fascinated me, was Philip Yancey's memoir. And, I've read certain things that he has written, and he writes about these themes of grace. I mean, his landmark book, What's So Amazing About Grace? But this is the first time that he shares his personal story, and it changed the way that I understood all of his other writing. So it's called Where the Light Fell, and it is a hard read. He grew up with some of the worst aspects of our faith, and yet it drove him to a deeper level of understanding of grace and who Jesus is. And I just was so fascinated by that book. So that's the recent one, but you ask me next week and I probably will have another answer. I do love the habit discipline of reading.
That's amazing. So what advice would you give yourself at 25 or 30 years of age with your current perspective?
Oh, I guess I would. 25 years old. So that would have been when I am just getting married. That is when I was just about to go to grad school. And I guess I would look back to Peter at that stage, and probably similar themes to what we've been talking about. Fix your eyes on what is most important, and do not miss the people that are closest to you. Isn't it great? I love how Jesus is the master teacher. He made things super simple. And I just increasingly, when he was asked, what's the greatest commandment? He made it so easy. The Cliff Notes: love God, love your neighbor. And increasingly, I find such beauty in that simplicity. That is what I want my life to be about. And there's so much, as you said earlier, that distracts us. There's so much to focus on. But what if we could keep that right in front of us today? The next conversation that I have, how can I love God and love the person that I am with? What would that look like? And I think, that would just make a beautiful, beautiful statement to our world if that really is how I lived, how we collectively lived.
It's amazing. Are there any leadership programs you've done or peer groups you've done that have helped you be a better leader?
Oh, yeah, there's many, but I think the core that they all have in common. I mean, I'm part of Praxis. I just love that community that has been so helpful to me. I've been part of, Convene and C12 at different times. And what I find that they have in common is the ability to do the peer member processing, where it's not all this content, but it's everyone shows up. You're in a safe and trusting relationships, and then you have the opportunity to bring what it is that you are wrestling with and have a group of people that help you not solve your problem, but ask insightful questions that help drive you to resolution. So whether that's YPO or it's similar model, similar methodology on that. And if you are doing life solo, oh, you are missing out. I think those relationships have been so life-giving. So yeah, lots of groups, but to me, the core element is trusted friendships and a place to process these challenging issues that we all face together.
And, we can even just form our own personal board, right? And like William Wilberforce had, as he fought slavery for 30 hard years. If he didn't have William Pitt and friends around him and a very wise wife that understood the challenge of living out his calling to fight slavery against the economic interests of everybody around him in Parliament, gosh, he would never have survived that, and just to have two or three people that, you have Jeff coming there to the same office, right? You guys I was just in his office recently and the NCF is right there. And so you've got like really good encouragement around you. And interestingly, Micah, when I studied all the people I coached for 20 years and asked who's finishing well by their own standards of finishing well and who's not, the second most important factor was they surrounded themselves with sources of encouragement.
That's amazing.
Wow.
That's a good lead in, Lloyd. You obviously, Peter, have many years left, hopefully, Lord willing, but like you're around a lot of people that are finishing well. And have you found a common theme for some of the people that you've surrounded yourself with that are finishing strong in their lives?
Mike, am I the only one that right now is thinking, Lloyd, you gave us number 2. What's number 1 on that?
I thought, Peter, that 2 factors would be talent and affluence, that the more resources you had, the more you would finish well, and the more talented. Those were neutral. If you had more or less money or more or less talent, it was not a factor. The very first one, across the board, everybody I've coached over the last 20 years that's really finishing well took the time to get clear on their calling, because it's not volunteerism. It provides a keel to your boat when the wind of life blows over your deck. Your keel is what makes you go forward, not drift. And that's the very first one. The second was they surrounded themselves with encouragement. That's why Bob Buford said, you need to keep track of where you see God at work through you and other people's lives, because it's not a question of if you get discouraged, just a question of when. And he said, you need to build a personal board, and you need to be surrounded by people that know what you're working on, your calling, and you have nowhere to hide then, Yeah, there were 3 other factors, and real briefly, the third one was you put your spouse's interests ahead of your own. The fourth one was you became more adaptable as you got older, instead of stuck in your ways or a grumpy old man. And the 5th most important factor was your health. So many people get taken right out of the game because they don't pay attention to their health.
You've seen people that support your ministry steward their wealth well.
We have amazing friends, friends is the right word, that walk with us. And I think about the biggest common theme I don't have a top five like Lloyd has. I only have a top one, but they have learned godliness with contentment is great gain. There is a level of freedom that they have. Their money and stuff does not have them. They have it, and they choose what to do with it. And there is that freedom that comes from that. Yeah. So I don't know if there's anything more than that. It's godliness and contentment. That truly is great gain.
What are you seeing internationally that is the biggest need these days? Obviously, I know you are super involved in Ukraine, but just is there any theme just across the countries you guys work in that seems to be the biggest need today?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, there is so much going on in the world. We could probably break that down to specific issues based on every single one of the countries where we serve. And the issues probably are different in that what is happening in Haiti right now with gangs growing in power and taking on more control over the nation, that is extremely problematic, and harming a lot of people. That's a very different issue from Moldova that is feeling the challenge from Russia and what is happening in Ukraine. So we could go country by country. Some places it is natural disaster, some is that. But I guess I've been changing the question a little bit because certain parts of our world, they seem to live with greater instability. They live with greater just massive challenges that they're facing right now. And I just have increasingly been trying to figure out what keeps our brothers and sisters in the game, what keeps them serving, what keeps them joyful, what keeps them hopeful. And the piece that I find so interesting is there is no expectation of ease and comfort. There's no expectation that this side of eternity, we are promised smooth sailing, financial bliss, marital fulfillment, and lack of economic or political challenges. There is no expectation of that. And so what does that do? Then when the challenges come, they find a way of crying out to God, and then they roll up their sleeves and they get to work. And I have so much respect for our Ukrainian brothers and sisters that are still living with a war raging, and they are choosing to love, to respond, to open up their homes, to open up their hearts, and to figure out a way of loving right now. And the same is true. I could go country by country. I could go issue by issue. They are not turning away from need. They are crying out to God, and then they are rolling up their sleeves and they're getting to work. And I wonder what would happen if more of us, maybe in the West, if we let go of the illusion that this is supposed to be easy and instead prepared for the difficult work that's in front of us, and to run forward, not away, reliant on God's grace, more serious in our prayer life, more serious about not being afraid to lean in some of the big issues that we face. I just think that would have a wonderful impact. So increasingly, that's who I look to as truly some of my heroes. Those individuals around the world that are doing it. They are crying out to God and then getting to work, and it is beautiful.
As we come to the end of our time, Peter, can you tell people how they can support Hope and resources they can check out to learn more about the ministry?
Yeah, hopeinternational.org. That is where we have all of our information. If the whole realm of microenterprise development is new, and if people enjoy reading, there's a free download of one of our books called Created to Flourish that it's kind of a primer on how the methodology works and some of the things that we do. So hopeinternational.org, and then there's a place to learn more. So that's one area. And if anyone wants to learn more about kind of the other writing that I have, my own kind of processing, you can go to peterkgreer.com. That is a place where, kind of the books and way to engage there as well. But if we could do anything to help let me know. We have a part of our website as well that is just open sourcing information for any other leaders, anything that we've developed. It's all available for free as well. So anything that we can try and do to help, reach out to us, hopeinternational.org, or on the book side, peterkgreer.com.
Peter, thanks so much for all you're doing. Thanks for your leadership and the impact you're having on the world. And thanks for your time today.
So much respect for you, Micah. Thank you, Lloyd. So much respect for you too. You guys are doing it, and just a privilege to have the time together.
Thank you for listening to the 100X podcast. Please subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast service. We would greatly appreciate it if you could rate the show and leave us a review. This podcast is sponsored by Anchor Investments, whose mission is to build America's most generous real estate company. To learn more, please visit anchorinv.com.